परम गुरु।
Around 2500 years ago, when the 24th Tirthankara, Lord Mahavira, was close to attaining nirvana, Bhasmagraha was imminent. Shakrendra therefore requested Lord Mahavira to extend his life by just 48 minutes, thereby alleviating the misery of those born in Pancham Kal. Lord Mahavira replied, "This is not something I can change or even command to change. It is unheard of in the past and inconceivable in the future." Thus, Kalyug, also known in Jainism as Hunda Avsarpini Kal, commenced, where largely darkness prevails over true spirituality. Even during these troubled times, for the benefit of many, the last disciple of Lord Mahavira was born in a small village called Vavania in Saurashtra, in the most fortuitous family of Shri Panchanbhai Mehta. Shri Panchanbhai was a Vaishnav, but his son, Shri Ravjibhai, was married to a Jain, Srimati Devma. Shri Ravjibhai served many saints with devotion, generously donated food and clothes to the poor. Devma took good care of her parents-in-law. An old businessman used to visit Ravjibhai. Once when he fell ill, Devma nursed him back to health. She would even cook shira for him. Thanking Devma profusely, he said, "You have taken very good care of me. May the Almighty God bless you with an illustrious son." The blessings turned true, and on the auspicious full moon night of Kartik Poonam, Sunday 9th November 1867, the great spiritual saint, an ascetic from birth, Shrimad Rajchandra was born to Devma.
लाख लाख दिवड़ानी जोत प्रगटावजो, लाख लाख ज्योति थी आरती उतारजो। लाख लाख दिवड़ानी जोत प्रगटावजो, लाख लाख ज्योति थी आरती उतारजो। कोटि कोटि करजो प्रणाम, कोटि कोटि करजो प्रणाम, कोटि कोटि करजो प्रणाम, कोटि कोटि करजो प्रणाम। आज दिन सोनानो उग्यो, आज दिन सोनानो उग्यो, आज मैं हमोती न बरस्या, आज मैं हमोती न बरस्या। राजमन मंदिर पधार्या, राजमन मंदिर पधार्या।
Shrimad's birth name was Laxminandan. With passage of time, he was known as Rajchandbhai and later became popular as Shrimad Rajchandra. Shrimad's grandfather, Panchan Bhai, was a devotee of Lord Krishna. Shrimad would regularly accompany him to the Krishna temple. Young Shrimad would also hear spiritual stories. On the other hand, Devma, Shrimad's mother, instilled values of Jainism in the young child. Both these religions influenced him profoundly. When Shrimad was 7, he was admitted to school. What could a worldly teacher possibly teach someone who was wise beyond his years? As the teacher started teaching numbers and alphabets, Shrimad already knew them when asked to read a few chapters from the book. He did it so fluently and even recited the chapters after putting the book away. All this on his first day at school. His teacher was amazed by Shrimad's intellect. One day, a neighbor named Shri Amichand Bhai died of snake bite. On hearing about his demise, young Shrimad asked his grandfather the meaning of death. Hesitantly, afraid of scaring the child, he said that Amichand Bhai's soul had left his body. Therefore, he will now not be able to walk, talk, eat, or drink. Hence, his body would be burnt to ashes at the cremation ground near the village pond. On hearing this, Shrimad was lost in deep thoughts. He moved restlessly across the house. Then, quietly sneaked out and went to the village pond. A myriad of questions arose in his innocent mind. Why does a good man like him have to be burned so cruelly? Why? In his silent musings, he rapidly climbed spiritual elevation, and in that enlightened state, he attained Jati Smaran Gnan, or the knowledge of several previous lives at the age of 7. This extraordinary occurrence happened due to the unsullied purity of his soul. This mystical experience made him increasingly quiet, and his sense of detachment grew multifold. At the age of 8, he started writing poems. In fact, 5,000 stanzas in the first year itself. At the age of 9, he composed the Ramayana and the Mahabharata in poetry form. By the age of 10, he started giving spellbinding speeches. He had such beautiful handwriting that he would often be invited by the King of Kutch to write confidential documents. By 11, he had started contributing articles to leading publications like Vigyan Vilas, Buddhi Prakash and Bodh Prakash, and even won several awards. At 11, he left his studies. At 12, he composed a meaningful poem comprising of over 300 stanzas on clock in just one day. In his poems, he referred to himself as Rajchandra. Therefore, he became popular as Shrimad Rajchandra. The Jains living in Vavania belonged to the Sthanakvasi sect, and young Shrimad used to meet them frequently. Through them, he got an opportunity to read the Pratikraman Sutra and other scriptures. These very flawlessly recommended love and peace with everyone. Impressed with the philosophical depth, he started showing an interest in Jainism, which deepened with time. Shrimad's mother, Devma, recalls an incident when she asked him to help her in the kitchen. As he started chopping vegetables, his eyes were full of tears. Noticing this, Devma asked him why was he weeping, since this was such a simple task that she had given him. Shrimad couldn't reply, since his heart was filled with compassion for every life form, including vegetables. Only the enlightened can feel the pain from the sufferings of all life forms. Once, Shrimad visited his maternal uncles in Rajkot. He travelled with Honourable Judge Shri Ravjibhai. While conversing, Shri Ravjibhai was impressed with his sharp intellect and requested Shrimad to stay with him at Rajkot. But Shrimad respectfully denied and said he would prefer to stay with his maternal uncles. When his uncles inquired about whom he travelled with, he replied, "With Ravjibhai." Later, during lunchtime, he overheard his uncles plotting to kill Ravjibhai. With alertness beyond his years, he went to Ravjibhai's house and asked him, "Do you know my maternal uncles?" Ravjibhai confirmed to him that his uncles had a dispute with him with regards to some state matter. To that, Shrimad urged him to stay alert and confided in him about the likely attempt to kill him. Ravjibhai asked him how he knew about this. Shrimad said that he overheard his uncles while having lunch. He decided to take it upon himself to forewarn him. Ravjibhai was amazed at the presence of mind of the young boy. He considered himself fortunate to have made Shrimad's acquaintance. Ravjibhai states that during one of Shrimad's visits, he had to urgently prepare copies of an official report and other notes. He had 10 assistants to help him, and if only one assistant was given that task, it would take him at least 10 days. So, he planned to distribute the work amongst all his assistants. At that time, Shrimad asked him if copies of these documents were to be made. Ravjibhai confirmed, to which Shrimad offered to help him with the same. Being a little skeptical of the boy's capabilities, Ravjibhai told him he will not be able to, but Shrimad confidently said that it will be done. After thinking briefly, Ravjibhai entrusted half of the work to him and the other half among his 10 assistants. In merely 2 hours, Shrimad completed his share of work. Ravjibhai compared his work with the originals and found that his work was not only flawless, but he had gone to the extent of even correcting the mistakes in the originals, retaining his neat and beautiful handwriting. Comparatively, Ravjibhai's 10 assistants took 5 hours to complete their share of work. It was full of mistakes, as well as they kept asking queries at regular intervals. What 10 assistants took 5 hours to complete, Shrimad completed it single-handedly in just 2 hours, and that too flawlessly with neat handwriting. This incident reinforced Dharshibhai's opinion about Shrimad's exceptional and superlative intelligence. It was time for him to return to Vavania. So his uncles presented him with a box of sweets as food for his journey. Shrimad bid goodbye to everyone. Shrimad went to see Dharshibhai before returning to Vavania. On realizing Shrimad's unattainable superiority, he now started offering him a cushioned seat, and he would himself be seated respectfully in front of him on the floor. In the absence of adequate money for his journey ticket, Shrimad sold the box of sweets he had received from his uncles and procured the required amount. What is important to note here is that despite having such close relationship with Dharshibhai, Shrimad did not ask him for any money. Because, like all great men, his principle was to never ask for any help unless it was for spiritual reasons. After finishing school, Shrimad helped out at his father's grocery shop. Being virtuous and scrupulously honest, he neither overcharged any customer nor cheated on the scales by weighing anything more or less. During his free time, Shrimad read books and composed poems on the stories from the Ramayana and the Mahabharata. Ever since his childhood, several learned people would visit him to seek clarifications concerning their doubts and discuss spiritual matters. Shrimad would clarify all their queries with such awe that they would bow down to him in respect. Once, Shrimad visited Judge Shri Dharshibhai at Morbi. Since the judge was considered very learned, a monk who came for alms told the judge that he could not understand the complexities of classification of the sacred Gange Angar and requested clarifications of the same. Shrimad overheard this conversation. Dharshibhai had to leave for some work. Meanwhile, Shrimad took the opportunity to prepare a simplified version of the said classifications and left the note in a small book. When Dharshibhai returned, he saw a goat enter his house and picking up a book. While driving the goat out, the book fell, and the note written by Shrimad fluttered out. When Dharshibhai read it, his amazement knew no bounds, and he immediately asked his house attendant to invite Shrimad to his house. As soon as Shrimad entered his house, Dharshibhai bowed down out of profound respect. Shrimad explained the unique significance of these verses. Dharshibhai was overwhelmed by the depth of Shrimad's knowledge and his ability to provide a beautiful, detailed explanation. From that moment, Dharshibhai treated Shrimad as his guru. By 15, Shrimad had extensively studied a variety of subjects, texts on Jainism, Buddhism, Vedanta, Sankhya, Yoga and Charvak. Jainism was the religion that left the most lasting impression on his young mind. When he was 16, in the year 1884, at Popat Bhai Daftari's house in Morbi, Shrimad wrote Mokshmala, comprising of 108 chapters in just 3 days. It is a milestone in Jain literature, wherein the principles of Jainism have been explained in simple and clear language. Shrimad mentions to Laghuraj Swami that when he wrote Mokshmala, his emotion of detachment was comparable to that of Lord Ram, as described in Yog Vashishta. Before writing Mokshmala, he studied all major Jain scriptures in just about 15 months. His detachment was so intense that he wrote the book in just 3 days without even being aware of what he ate or drank. Once in Vavania, 3 Sadhvijis requested Popat Bhai Manji for a meeting with Shrimad to understand Suyagdang Sutra. Shrimad agreed to the same and confirmed the meeting at 2 p.m. and requested Popat Bhai to always accompany him. When Shrimad first visited the Upashray, Sadhvijis were seated on a bench and young Shrimad sat on the floor in front of them. Upon hearing the detailed interpretation of just 2 stanzas, all 3 Sadhvijis profusely apologized for not giving due respect to Shrimadji and requested him to take a seat on the bench while they sat on the floor. They exclaimed and confessed of not having heard such a beautiful explanation ever from anyone so far. Shrimad also explained to them various chapters from Mokshmala. When Shrimad was 16, he performed his first avdhan in Morbi of attending to 8 activities simultaneously without any mistakes. On witnessing this, Popat Bhai Manji's father rushed back to Vavania and joyfully informed Shrimad's father as to how intelligent and illustrious his son was. Thereafter, at Jamnagar, Botad and other places, Shrimad performed 12, 16 and 52 avdhans and was awarded the title of Great Indian Hero. Thereafter, once in Botad, he performed 52 avdhans in the presence of his friend Shri Harilal Shivlal as follows: playing chopart with 3 people, playing cards with 3 people, playing chess with 1 person, counting the strokes of a ringing bell, mentally adding, subtracting, multiplying and dividing problems, looking at the turning of rosary beads and counting the same, solving 8 new puzzles, teaching a student, composing ornamental phrases, composing 16 poems on different subjects that were presented, arranging 400 words in order from Greek, English, Sanskrit, Arabic, Latin, Urdu, Gujarati, Marathi, Bengali, Maru, Jadeji and other 16 different languages that were presented randomly. He performed all these activities simultaneously. Two examples from Sanskrit and Gujarati language are shown here. Shrimad rearranged these alphabets into a sentence or a poem. Shrimad similarly unscrambled the characters in other 14 languages. These 52 activities were undertaken simultaneously. The method employed was to attend to some part of the first activity and then the second, then the third, fourth and so forth till the last one, and then again going back to the first, second and so on till all the tasks were completed. All this was done while sitting on a high seat by mental concentration alone, without noting anything down or asking about any activity again. He completed all 52 activities. At the age of 19, he performed Shatavadhans, that is 100 avdhans, at Framjee Cawasjee Institute in Mumbai under the chairmanship of Dr. Peterson. Thousands of attendees were left mesmerized by the spectacular display of his mnemonic capacity. As a matter of fact, Sir Charles suggested that he visit Europe to display his capabilities. Shrimad felt that commercializing this extraordinary talent was demeaning and not worth considering. This event was widely covered by leading newspapers like Mumbai Samachar, Jam-e-Jamshed, Indian Spectator, Times of India, etc. His popularity soared and was now known as the Shatavadhani scholar. He had exhibited his stupendous powers at various places in Mumbai and was awarded a gold medal as well as the title of Sakshat Saraswati. Amongst the learned men present at the time of Shatavadhan were a few astrologers. 10 of the renowned astrologers inspected his horoscope and interpreted it as being worthy of divinity. Shrimad confided into his brother-in-law, Shri Chatrabhuj Bechar, that he was filled with intense detachment and feelings of renunciation. Shrimad met many prominent personages while performing Shatavadhan. Among them was Shri Jamshedji Tata. The industrialist had recently furnished his bungalow with several imported antiques and grand furniture, which he proudly exhibited to Shrimad. After looking around, Shrimad asked, "Who will benefit from all your opulence?" Those words drove home the desired impact, and Shri Tata channeled his wealth to many charitable causes. After about a year, when he was 20, he considered performing avdhans as an obstruction in his spiritual pursuit and gave it up. Shrimad had gained mastery over astrology within a very short time. He had studied the most comprehensive text on the subject known as Bhadra Bahu Samhita, written by Shri Bhadra Bahu Swami in Sanskrit. He could tell a person's future by reading his palm and face. As a result, many friends and relatives took advantage of the same. Once, he was asked about the future of a bedridden child. He foresaw clearly that the child was not going to survive. With a very heavy heart, he remained silent and thought, "Do I have to deliver such sad news?" From that day onwards, he resolved never to indulge in astrology again. According to him, it was an imaginary science, and he found astrology a hindrance to his spiritual advancement. In 1887, at the age of 20, he married Jabakbai in Morbi, who was the daughter of Shri Popatbhai Mehta, the elder brother of Shri Reva Shankar Bhai Jagjeevan Das. After the wedding, when Shrimad was returning to Vavania, there was a light, refreshing shower. Shrimad informed Shri Chhatraput Bechar that in the past, on such occasions involving spiritual leaders of that era, there used to be such showers. It was therefore a portent of his advent as one of the greatest spiritual leaders of the era. Shri Revashankarabhai Jagjeevan Das got quite close to Shrimad after he became his uncle-in-law. After about a year, Shrimad suggested that he may settle in Mumbai to commence a business in diamonds and precious gems. Accordingly, Shri Revashankarabhai gave up his legal practice and went to Mumbai in 1889. The firm of Shri Revashankarabhai Jagjeevan Das was founded in the latter half of 1889. Shri Maniklal Zaveri was the guiding force, and he remained in partnership with Shrimad till the end. Within a couple of years, the business expanded to include trade with major international firms in the UAE, Rangoon and others. In 1892, Shri Nagin Das Kapoor Chand of Surat and Shri Chota Lal Lallu Bhai of Ahmedabad and others joined the firm. Shrimad played a pivotal role in the business. In Mumbai, Shrimad once went for a stroll with Shri Tribhuvan Das Bhanji, who, after discussions on various spiritual matters, queried about the integrity of a Jain. Pointing towards the High Court, Shrimad replied that a Jain's integrity should not be less than that of a judge. In fact, a Jain's integrity standards should be so high that no one should ever even doubt the same. Not only that, even if someone doubts his integrity, no one would even believe that statement. A Jain should have the highest standards of integrity. Shrimad displayed exceptionally high standards of integrity and compassion even in business. One day, a trader came to Shrimad in order to sell some pearls. They were of good quality but were unpolished. Shrimad informed him that the pearls would fetch a better market price if they were polished and an even better deal if they were sent to Rangoon. That being accomplished, the trader returned to Shrimad. But Shrimad cautioned him, "These pearls have been mortgaged with you. What if the owner returned to claim them?" Taken aback that Shrimad knew about the mortgage, the trader said, "These pearls have been mortgaged for the last 3 or 4 years. I am acting under the assumption that the owner will not come to redeem them." Shrimad then bought them and paid the due amount. That evening, his office manager Vanmali said, "Please give me those pearls so I can send them to Rangoon along with the other goods." Shrimad shook his head slowly and said, "Not today." The trader came back the next day, wringing his hands. "The owner has returned and wants his pearls back. What should I do now? For pity's sake, I implore you to return the pearls." Shrimad said, "I had warned you about the situation just yesterday. You have already sold them to us, and we stand to make a tidy profit thereby. However, you are welcome to take them back, as I do not want to take advantage of anybody in a vulnerable position, Thus, he forfeited a sizable profit from that transaction out of sheer compassion. An Arab merchant, desirous of impressing his elder brother by conducting business in a very flamboyant manner, came to Shrimad in Mumbai and offered to sell him some pearls. Shrimad bought them from him at a reasonable rate. The Arab bragged about the transaction to his elder brother, who showed him the consignor's written instructions, which stipulated the minimum selling price, which was way higher than what he had traded for. Disappointed, he asked him why he did this. The Arab was now extremely troubled. He went to Shrimad with folded hands and narrated his awkward position and tearfully pleaded for mercy. Shrimad very graciously returned the pearls and took back the amount he had paid. Ever since then, the Arab regarded him with great reverence and treated him with an awe reserved for Allah. Once, Shrimad struck a deal with a diamond merchant, whereby the merchant was committed to sell precious diamonds at a price agreed by both parties at a date in the near future. An agreement was signed to that effect. It so happened that the price of those diamonds shot up phenomenally just before the delivery date. If the merchant sold the diamonds at the agreed price, he would suffer a tremendous loss, requiring him to sell off all his assets. When Shrimad came to know of the volatile situation, he went to the merchant's office. The merchant was understandably very nervous on seeing Shrimad. But being a man of character, he bravely said, "Rajchandra, please rest assured that I will settle the bargain. Even at the market rate, I will fulfill all my obligations and as a result face all consequences. But I will not let it affect you." Shrimad replied compassionately, "How can it not affect me? I am equally worried as you are. But anyhow, it is this piece of paper that is causing worries to both of us. Why don't we just destroy this so that both of us are relieved?" Saying so, Shrimad tore up the agreement. Shrimad said, "Brother, just to honor this agreement, you would have had to suffer a loss of about 60 to 70,000 rupees. That's a lot of money and would completely ruin you. Raichand can drink milk, but not someone's lifeblood." The diamond merchant heaved a big sigh of relief and gratefully regarded Shrimad as his guardian angel. Gandhiji states that on the very first day of returning from London after graduating as a barrister, I had the opportunity of meeting Shrimad in Mumbai. I wanted to test Shrimad as I had heard great stories about his intellect. Upon someone's suggestion, I read out to him some 200 words in different languages from a piece of paper in which I had written them down, as I would not be able to remember them. After listening, Shrimad repeated all those words in the exact same order. I was nonplussed by this fantastic feat of memory, and my admiration for Shrimad knew no bounds. In 1893, when I was in South Africa, I had a few close friends who practiced Christianity. I read all the books on Christianity and Islam that I could lay my hands on. Being confused, I corresponded with several religious scholars on the subject. Foremost among them was Shrimad Rajchandra. My belief in Hinduism was reaffirmed as Shrimad's explanations were so forthright and lucid that I needed no further convincing. My respect for him grew many folds. I imbibed the virtues of compassion, forgiveness, and most importantly, ahimsa or non-violence from poet Shrimad Rajchandra. To forgive your own killer. I learned this very important life lesson from Shrimad. One day in Mumbai, Shrimad received disturbing news about the practice of slaughtering 108 buffaloes in Dharampur. In order for this heinous act to be prevented, Shrimad immediately called for a meeting of a few influential individuals and asked Shri Maniklal Ghelabhai to travel to Dharampur to stop this practice. Shrimad also spoke to a few learned men to determine why the Vedas sanctioned such morbid violence. Upon studying, he proved that the sacred texts were being grossly misinterpreted. In parallel, he continued giving speeches and stirring up public sympathies. He paid monies to those who were greedy and worked tirelessly day and night to save the lives of the unfortunate buffaloes. His heroic efforts paid off and it finally resulted in stoppage of their slaughter. Once, Shrimad took his brother-in-law, Ravjibhai, and son Chhaganlal to the mountains of Idar. He made them sit on a flat slab of stone and said, "I intend on going to that cave in solitude and will return in an hour's time. Be wary of the fact that a tiger would come from that side to drink water. Do not panic. Stay calm and still." He then etched a protective circle like a Lakshman Rekha around them with a twig. After some time, a tiger did appear. But with unflinching faith in Shrimad, they continued sitting there fearlessly. After drinking some water, the tiger quietly retreated with no sign of aggression.
Sahajatma Swarup Param Guru.
We will now try to examine the lives of his four key disciples who attained enlightenment due to the divine grace and guidance of Shrimad Rajchandra. They were Shri Juthabhai, Shri Ambalal Bhai, Shri Sobhag Bhai, and Shri Laghuraj Swami. We begin with Shri Juthabhai. A resident of Ahmedabad, he was devout, God-fearing and very intelligent. In 1888, Shrimad went to Ahmedabad in order to have Mokshmala published. In that connection, he met Shri Jaisingh Bhai and his younger brother Shri Juthabhai. Shrimad would easily read their minds, and that stunned all those who met him. Everybody acknowledged his keen intellect and spiritual bent of mind. When people saw Shrimad perform Avadhans with Shri Dalpat Bhai Bhagu Bhai in the audience, they were wonderstruck. Jhutha Bhai in particular was greatly influenced by Shrimad and had the utmost devotion for him. Since Jai Singh Bhai was compelled to travel a lot for his work, he entrusted his younger brother, Jhutha Bhai, to look after Shrimad while he was away. Due to right virtues and increased interactions with Shrimad, Jhutha Bhai's awe and respect for Shrimad increased many folds. Jhutha Bhai informs Jai Singh Bhai that by simply glancing over a few pages, Shrimad could comprehend the very essence of the entire book. Jhutha Bhai stood spellbound seeing this. Thereafter, Jhutha Bhai's interaction with Shrimad gradually increased through letter exchanges. Even though Jhutha Bhai was failing in his health, his association with Shrimad kept his spiritual goals alive, and his sense of detachment increased with every passing day. At the tender age of 23, Jhutha Bhai's soul peacefully departed from his body. Shrimad paid glowing tributes to him in a letter number 117 in Vachanamrut. One who shattered the illusions of worldly life, one who had paramount yearning for the truth, one whose heart was illuminated by the torch of devotion, one whose life was suddenly snatched away while he was immersed in pursuing spiritual aspirations. Such was the gentle soul of Shri Jhutha Bhai. Now, for some interactions with Shri Ambalal Bhai. As a person, he was very humble, intelligent, spiritual, and devoted. Once, Shri Ambalal Bhai, Shri Chota Bhai, and others travelled to Ahmedabad to attend a certain marriage ceremony. Being the same age, Ambalal Bhai tried to persuade Jhutha Bhai to join them. Jhutha Bhai politely begged to be excused, saying that he was not inclined to take such active part in worldly affairs. Hearing this, Ambalal Bhai's curiosity was aroused. Thereupon, Jhutha Bhai spoke enthusiastically about Shrimad and even showed him the letters received. These letters inspired Ambalal Bhai and others. Eventually, Ambalal Bhai became a staunch devotee of Shrimad. Because of his beautiful handwriting, Shrimad often entrusted him with making copies of the letters to be sent out to other devotees. He would accompany Shrimad on various spiritual retreats and himself cook food for him. His devotion helped him acquire special abilities, which empowered him to rewrite everything that Shrimad had said verbatim even after 8 days. He attained Samyak Darshan in a short span of time and passed away peacefully at the age of 37, with Shrimad's name on his lips. Now for the interactions with Shri Sobhag Bhai. A resident of Saila village, Shri Lallu Bhai once received Bij Gyan Mantra from a Jain monk. He passed this precious legacy on to his son, Sobhag Bhai, and instructed him to hand it over to a spiritually deserving person. Sobhag Bhai, who was 44 years older than Shrimad, had heard legends of Shrimad, his prowess as a Shatavadhani scholar, philosopher, and poet. He was convinced that Shrimad was indeed worthy of the Bij Gyan Mantra to be passed on to. In 1890, he set out to meet Shrimad in Morbi. At that time, Shrimad was at his office. As soon as Saubhag entered the office, Shrimad called him out by his name and welcomed him warmly. Saubhag was amazed and wondered as to how it was even possible for Shrimad to know his name. But before Saubhag could even respond, Shrimad said, "Please read the note in that drawer." When Saubhag read it, he realized with astonishment that it was indeed the very same Bij Gyan mantra he intended giving to Shrimad. Saubhag was overawed by this mysterious coincidence and understood that he was in the presence of a highly evolved personage. Nevertheless, to test Shrimad's knowledge, he asked him, "In which direction does the main door of my house face?" Shrimad replied, "The north." Hearing this, Saubhag felt divine respect for Shrimad. Being overwhelmed by emotion, Saubhag fell on his knees and bowed down reverentially. At that time, Shrimad was seated in an almost samadhi-like trance. In his last days, Saubhag was running high temperature. Shrimad assured his sons that nothing untoward would happen to him and took him to Eider for 10 days. There at Eider, Shrimad imparted the rare and sacred knowledge of the soul and inspired Saubhag to strive hard for attaining the ultimate goal. Thereafter, from Mumbai, Shrimad followed up with encouraging letters to help him achieve it. Saubhag attained Samadhi death and passed away at the age of 74. Now, for his association with Sri Laghuraj Swami. Sri Laghuraj Swami would address everybody as Prabhu and was thus known as Prabhu Shri. He was the one entrusted with the very significant task of propagating the stupendous spiritual legacy of Shrimad Rajchandra. When he was 30 years old, he renounced the world and became a Jain monk. At the age of 44, in the village of Vaso, he attained pure self-realization due to the divine grace of his Guruji Shrimad Rajchandra. Prabhu Shri founded the Shrimad Rajchandra Ashram at Agas, a sanctified pilgrimage site for all spiritual aspirants. At Agas Ashram itself, at the age of 82, he attained Samadhi death. Once in Khambat, on the ground floor level of a monastery, Sri Laghuraj Swami and Sri Damodar Bhai were reading the Bhagavati Sutra. In the opposite corner, Sri Ambalal Bhai, Sri Tribhuvan Bhai and Sri Chota Bhai were absorbed in reading copies of the letters written by Shrimad. Sri Laghuraj Swami gently admonished them to either attend the spiritual discourses on the floor above or sit next to him. Rather than going upstairs, they chose to sit next to him. Discussions arose about the subject of Bhavsthiti, but no one could come up with a satisfactory explanation. At that moment, Ambalal Bhai declared that there was indeed one person, Shrimad Rajchandra, who could easily put all doubts to rest and was extremely learned. He further elaborated that Shrimad was scheduled to visit him in Khambat in the near future. Laghuraj Swami was elated and enthusiastically requested Ambalal Bhai to set up a meeting with him. Then Ambalal Bhai handed over all the letters from Shrimad to Laghuraj Swami. When he read them, he was amazed at the depth and clarity of the contents and realized that Shrimad could indeed clarify all doubts regarding the scriptures in a lucid manner. A little later, in 1890, when Shrimad visited Khambat, Ambalal Bhai and his father Lallu Bhai accompanied Shrimad to the monastery where Laghuraj Swami was residing. Although Shrimad had given up the practice of Avadhans, he did perform 8 Avadhans on the insistence of Acharya Shri Harakchand ji. All those present were duly and highly impressed by his extensive knowledge and powers. Shri Laghuraj Swami sought permission from his guru, Acharya Shri Harakchand ji, to have a private meeting with Shrimad on the floor above. On being granted the same, he went upstairs with Shrimad. He felt a great surge of emotions flowing and threw himself at Shrimad's feet, acknowledging him without any hesitation as his revered guru. Shrimad then asked him gently, "What do you desire?" With folded arms, he simply said, "True self-realization and the will to remain steadfast in my vow of celibacy." After remaining silent for a while, Shrimad nodded, giving his confirmation. He then examined his right toe before leaving. On the way back, Shrimad told Ambalal Bhai, "Laghuraj Swami has tremendous spiritual potential. He has the sadhanas of many lifetimes." When Laghuraj Swami visited Shrimad the next day, he asked Laghuraj Swami as to why he was giving him so much respect. Laghuraj Swami confessed that, "I am overwhelmed with love and respect for you. It is almost as if you are my father from some previous lifetime. The moment I see you, all my worries and fear with respect to spiritual pursuits simply vanish." Shrimad asked him, "How did you recognize who I am?" "I heard about you from Ambalal Bhai. I have been in a spiritual quandary since time immemorial, desperately seeking answers to my inner queries. I humbly seek refuge at your lotus feet." Laghuraj Swami stayed in Mumbai during the monsoons in order to stay closer to Shrimad. Whenever Laghuraj Swami visited Shrimad, he would accompany him to the adjoining room and explain various stanzas from Samadhi Shatak and other similar scriptures. Shrimad gave him the book to read. As Laghuraj Swami was leaving the room, Shrimad called him back. And wrote the following mantra on the first page. Atam bhavana bhavata, jeev lahe keval gnan re. In 1894, Laghuraj Swami suffered from a protracted illness with high temperature for around 10 to 12 months. He was afraid that his very life was in peril. With utmost urgency, he wrote to Shrimad, "My Lord, I am extremely unwell and I suspect that my life is going to end. If I should die without attaining Samkit, this precious human lifetime will be wasted. In your great mercy, please be instrumental in granting me Samkit." Full of compassion, Shrimad replied that he was in no imminent danger of dying, and he also sent him the most significant letter elaborating on the 6 tenets of the soul. When Shrimad visited Surat, he explained the crux of the letter and advised Laghuraj Swami to memorize the same and urged him to reflect deeply on its spiritual contents. If a person who is truly deserved in the spiritual sense reads this wondrous letter, it could help him achieve samkit. In 1896, near Khambat, in a village called Ralaj, Shrimad used to meditate in solitude. A few sadhaks were fortunate to receive his sermons. When Laghuraj Swami heard about it, he walked all the way from Khambat but stayed on the outskirts of Ralaj. He then requested someone to call Ambalal Bhai and in turn seek permission from Shrimad for a meeting. Since Jain monks are not permitted by tradition to travel from one place to another during monsoons, he was denied permission. Shrimad further added that if Laghuraj Swami desires to meet him badly, he would personally travel to Khambat to meet Laghuraj Swami, but he should avoid crossing over to Ralaj. On hearing this, Laghuraj Swami was heartbroken, but he resolved not to go against Shrimad's wishes and returned dejectedly. This fire of separation kept him awake all night in a profusion of tears. The next morning, Shrimad sent Shri Ambalal Bhai, Shri Sobhag Bhai and Shri Dungarshi Bhai to visit Laghuraj Swami to inform him that he would indeed be in Khambat shortly and that there is a message for him to be conveyed in private. They both went to Ambalal Bhai's house. There, he conveyed the priceless and sacred mantra, Sahajatma Swarup Param Guru.
Sahajatma Swarup Param Guru. Sahajatma Swarup Param Guru. Sahajatma Swarup Param Guru.
And enjoined him to turn the rosary beads 5 times a day with this mantra. Laghuraj Swami felt truly blessed and was elated with the news of Shrimad's imminent arrival. In 1896, Shrimad stayed at Sri Chotalal Manikchand's house in Khambat for 18 days. When Shrimad gave discourses, not only would all the rooms be filled with people wanting to hear him, but the entire neighborhood would be packed with devotees. Despite the same, all those who came with spiritual doubts had their questions satisfactorily answered in entirety, without them even asking Shrimad about the same. That left them all spellbound. In 1896, at Khambat, Sobhag Bhai once entreated Shrimad to simplify the letter of the 6 tenets as he found it difficult to memorize. He urged if it could be made in a poetry form, which would make it considerably easier for him to memorize. Nearly 20 days later, at Nadiad, upon returning from an evening walk, he requested Ambalal Bhai to fetch a lantern. Shri Ambalal Bhai stood by him holding the lantern until Shrimad finished the entire 142 stanzas without stopping for a moment.
Atma-siddhi, 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 Atma-siddhi.
Laguraj Swami states that Atma-siddhi holds miraculous powers.
पतित जन पावनी सूर सरिता समी अधम उद्धारिणी आत्मसिद्धि आत्मसिद्धि.
It is a priceless mantra.
जन्म जन्मांतरो जानता जोगिए आत्म अनुभव वडे आज दीधी.
Even if one doesn't understand its meaning, reciting it daily could pave the road to liberation.
भक्त भगीरथ समा भाग्यशाणी महा भव्य सौभाग्यनी विनती थी. आत्मसिद्धि कृपाणु आत्मसिद्धि. चारुतर भूमिना नगर नडियाद मां पूर्ण कृपा प्रभु एक करीती. आत्मसिद्धि आत्मसिद्धि.
Shri Shankar Bhai Aju Bhai tells us that once in Kavitha village, a few school children came to meet Shrimad. He addressed them playfully. Listen, children. Suppose you have a pot of ghee in one hand and a pot of buttermilk in the other hand. Which one would you save if someone pushed you accidentally? One bright little boy answered, "The pot of ghee." Why so? Because it is easier to get a refill for buttermilk than the ghee. Then Shrimad explained the metaphor. Like ghee, the soul is far more valuable than the body, which can be compared to the buttermilk. Shrimad then asked the children if they had seen a goat. Yes, at Rabari's house. Okay. Have you seen a bull? Yes, it is like a buffalo. Shrimad then explained, a goat would go to a pond and drink water quietly, but a bull would return without drinking water. Kids asked, why so? Shrimad explained that the bull would splash around the pond and make it filthy, thereby making the water unfit for consumption. Similarly, when a person listens carefully to the enlightened soul and acts accordingly, he would benefit enormously, like the goat. But the person who, despite having the privilege of meeting the enlightened soul, does not listen to his teachings is like the bull, who acts to his own detriment and hinders others as well. Shrimad asked the kids if they had seen a sword. Kids replied, yes. Shrimad thereafter demonstrated another metaphor, that of a sword and a scabbard, which are as different as the soul and the body, though they appear the same when the sword is still in the scabbard.
भास्यो देहाध्यासथी आत्मा देह समान रे पढ़ते बन्ने भिन्न छे प्रगट लक्षण भान रे राज राजेश्वर देशना भास्यो देहाध्यासती आत्मा देह समान रे पड़ते बन्ने भिन्न छे जेम असीने म्यान रे राज राजेश्वर देशना राज राजेश्वर देशना राज राजेश्वर देशना.
Shrimad explained the most profound truths about the soul and the body, and that they are different, in a manner that was charming and simple for the children to understand. He also recommended to follow the directions as guided by the enlightened soul, which is the only way to self-enlightenment. Once, Shrimad was giving a discourse to Shri Ravjibhai at Shri Javairbhai's house. Ravjibhai said, I definitely wish to devote a lot of time in undertaking bhakti, but since I have hunger pangs that demand food, it does not seem possible. Shrimad replied, what if I take responsibility of your stomach? He then exhorted Javairbhai, give him food that is cooked at your house, along with a pot of water. He will sit on the mezzanine floor of the temple and do his bhakti. But there is just one condition. He would neither get distracted if there is a procession passing by, nor even look outside the window if women are singing songs. If anyone comes and sits next to him for bhakti, by all means let him do so. But there should be strictly no discussion on any worldly matter. Ravjibhai said that these conditions were difficult for him to follow, to which Shrimad observed astutely. When the desire to do bhakti does not really exist, then any lame excuse is presented, like the hunger pangs. Nobody up to now has perished pursuing spiritual advancement. These arguments are a mere illusion. Shri Hiralal Narottam Das narrates an interesting experience at Vadhavan camp in Gujarat. Shrimad was raising funds from various donors for Shri Param Shrut Prabhavak Mandal. Inspired by the motive, Shri Hiralal firmed up his mind to donate all his savings of about rupees 25 to 30 if only Shrimad asked him to contribute. Immediately, Shrimad asked for the donation list to be given to Shri Hiralal. Glancing upon the list, Hiralal's face turned pale, reading large amounts mentioned therein. With encouragement, Shrimad said, "You have 51 rupees in your piggy bank. There is nothing to feel down. You are giving away your entire savings, while others are only giving a small portion of theirs. Therefore, relatively, your contribution is more than that of the others." Hearing this, Hiralal committed to donate rupees 51. Thereafter, upon returning to Ahmedabad, he opened his piggy bank to count his savings. It all added up to exactly rupees 51, not a single paisa more or less. He was completely spellbound. In 1899, Shrimad met King of Eder a couple of times. King of Eder asked Shrimad about the truth behind the popular saying, "Kings go through a lot of suffering in the next life in hell." Shrimad responded by first explaining as to how someone gets to become a king, which is backed by good karma or punya from his or her past life. Now, there are two types of punya. One which eventually leads to further punya, and another which leads to bad karma or pap. When someone becomes a king based on this second type of punya, they typically misuse their wealth on various vices, impose onerous taxes, are cruel to his subjects, and villainous in their deeds. Such kings go through a lot of suffering in their next life. The king asked Shrimad about his views of Eider. Shrimad praised the glory of Eider, its fort, the Jain temples, the balconies of Rukhi Rani, Chowki of Ranmal, the caves where the great saints meditated, and the medicinal herbs found in the region were all a depiction of its past glory. It demonstrated how the locals flourished in business while maintaining integrity and were also spiritually quite evolved. Further, Shrimad said, there are 24 Tirthankaras in the Jain religion and the 24th of them was Lord Mahavira. Shrimad could feel the presence of Lord Mahavira and his disciples Gautam Swami and the other Gandhars who had been in the mountains of Eider many centuries ago. Shrimad further added that all his disciples attained nirvana, but one disciple was left behind. He was reborn in the present era, and there was a strong probability of many people benefiting spiritually from his teachings. Shrimad hinted that he himself was that last disciple of Lord Mahavira. Once in 1897, when Shrimad was in Nadiyad, he received disturbing news of his mother's illness. He rushed hastily back to Vavania. He took great care and helped his mother regain her health. He would stay next to her all the time. He would even hold her hand to assist her in walking. One day, sitting next to his mother, he composed the peerless spiritual poem, Apurva Avsar.
Apurva Avsar Evo Kyare Avashe Apurva Avsar Evo Kyare Avashe बायांतर निर्ग्रंथ जो सर्व संबंधनु बंधन तीक्षण छेदिने विचर शुकव महत पुरुष ने पंथ जो अपूर्व अवसर एवो क्यारे आवशे अपूर्व अवसर एवो क्यारे आवशे.
Gandhiji affirmed that the intense detachment and renunciation which were intertwined in every stanza in this spiritual poem of Apurva Avsar were pulsating in every fiber of Shrimad's being. Whenever Shrimad found some leisure time from business, he would frequently visit places like Kavitha, Eider, Khambat, Vadva, Ralaj, Uttar Sanda, Vaso and others to spend time in solitude and strive hard towards attaining self-realization. He once asked his mother, Mataji, if only you grant me permission, it is my burning aspiration to retire to the jungle and become a monk. Being astounded, his mother said, Bhai, how can I give you permission? Why on earth would you wish to be a monk? Why? Why? And she could not check her copious flow of tears. Trying to convince his mother, Shrimad said that as a monk, he will visit her someday. Thereafter, Shrimad gave an example of a particular king. But his mother couldn't control her tears. Her tears touched Shrimad, and he promised her, I will comply with your wishes and will not broach this topic hereafter. I cannot bear to see you unhappy. At Vaso, Shrimad gave some invaluable and insightful information on how to achieve self-realization. He told Muni Shri Laghuraj Swami, if any devotee should seek spiritual guidance, enjoin them to adhere to the following rules. First, to eliminate all 7 vices. These 7 vices are gambling, non-vegetarian food, alcohol, robbery, prostitution, hunting, and extramarital affairs. Second, to refrain from eating green vegetables. Third, to abstain from eating all root vegetables. Fourth, to abstain from eating the 7 forbidden items. The 7 forbidden items of food are fruit of the banyan tree, fruit of the peepal tree, fruit of the peepala tree, fruit of the umarda tree, figs, honey, and butter. Fifth, to not eat after sunset. Sixth, to turn the rosary beads 5 times a day. Seventh, to chant the mantras. Eighth, to recite and reflect on the Shamapana and the 20 stanzas of Hey Prabhu every day. Ninth, to undertake satsang and to read the sacred scriptures. In 1898, Shrimad was at Uttarsanda leading the life of an ascetic. Shri Motilal Bhai Bhavsar was the only person allowed to take care of him. Night time, Motilal set the bed on the hammock, but Shrimad asked him to take it away. Motilal Bhai insisted and left as it is. Later, on checking, Motilal Bhai found the bed lying on the floor. Mosquitoes were biting, but he found Shrimad unmoved and reciting hymns. Motilal covered Shrimad with a dhoti cloth and went to sleep. He came checking after some time and found Shrimad meditating despite the repeated onslaughts of pesky mosquitoes while the dhoti cloth was lying on the floor. Shrimad's concentration was so intense that it made no difference to him. Once in Ahmedabad, Shrimad told Muni Devkaranji and other monks, "In front of everyone, I have renounced my wealth and have pledged for celibacy. And further, it seems that very soon my mother will give me permission to become a monk. A point to be noted here is that Shrimad observed his vow so minutely that he did not even keep enough change in his pocket for a railway ticket. In 1901, Shrimad had arrived at the Aga Khan bungalow in Ahmedabad along with his mother and wife. Around the same time, Muni Shri Laghuraj Swami and others had also come to Ahmedabad. Shrimad had two handwritten sacred scriptures, Gyanarnav and Kartikeyanupareksha. Shrimad encouraged his mother Devma to offer Gyanarnav to Muni Shri Laghuraj Swami and his wife Jabakbai to offer Kartikeyanupareksha to Muni Shri Devkaranji. At Vadvan camp, Shrimad hinted to Shri Chhaganbhai Nanjibhai and his brother Mansuklal about his impending demise. The metaphor he used was beautiful and unusual. The lion will depart from his gilded cage. The door of this cage is now open, and the lion is due for imminent departure. He meant, of course, that body is the cage, and that lion, the soul. The day before his demise, his brother Mansukh Bhai, Reva Shankar Bhai and Narbheram Bhai had come to visit him. Shrimad said, "Rest assured, this soul is eternal and will surely attain the loftiest spiritual goal. Please try and stay calm. The priceless flow of knowledge which emanated from this body will soon be stemmed, and there is very little time left. Be vigilant and strive harder in your spiritual pursuits." Late night at 2:30, after suffering from an extreme attack of cold, he assured everybody, "Please do not worry. I am about to attain Samadhi death." At 7:30 in the morning, he requested to be transferred onto a couch. Mansukh Bhai did so in a manner convenient for him to lie comfortably. At 8:45 a.m., he said, "Mansukh, do not grieve. Take care of mother. I am about to go into Mahasamadhi." During his Mahasamadhi, which lasted 5 hours, there was a divine luster and radiance on his face. He laid on the couch in the same standing posture as the one he was photographed at Vadvan. There was no sign of urine or stools, nor any perspiration, watering of eyes and mouth. From around 7:45 to 2 in the afternoon, there was no movement. Usually, an hour after he drank milk, he used to have bowel movement, but not on that holy day. Just like a machine, everything switched off. The holy soul departed from the body on that very couch at 2 o'clock in the afternoon on Tuesday, 9th April 1901. On the other side, when Prabhu Shri heard the news of Shrimad's passing away, he was shocked and heartbroken. He immediately returned to the jungle in solitude without even breaking his fast. Hearing of his tragic demise, Shri Ambalal Bhai could barely contain his extreme anguish and expressed the same as follows. In a vast forest, there was just one majestic tree. Many birds delighted in the luxuriant shade of this tree in a charming and delicate manner. When this tree was suddenly consumed by fire, where on earth would the myriad birds seek solace and refuge? They would not experience even a moment of peace or quiet. The most eloquent poets would be powerless to describe their grief. In the same manner, these wretched lives would have to survive this unlimited sorrow. Why, oh why did you have to go? Oh, this mighty land of Bharat, could you not bear the weight of the one who actually transcended his physical limitations? If that was the case, you should have relieved your burden by making a wretched soul like me perish. Alas, 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 I can think of nothing else. I spend all my time grieving. Nothing makes sense anymore. Whom can we now turn to for spiritual succor? Only his Vitrag Mudra and his sacred Vachanamrut remains, from which we should all draw divine inspiration. Now it is up to us to cleanse ourselves of all karmas with the help of Shrimad's sacred teachings, compiled in Vachanamrut and by reciting the mantra Sahajatma Swarup Param Guru. Only by concentrating on these, we would have made good use of our human birth. Let us all collectively bow down and pray to him for his blessings. Sahajatma Swarup Param Guru.
Sahajatma Swarup Param Guru, 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 Param Guru, Param Guru, Param Guru. Hey Prabhu, शो कहूँ दीनानाथ दयाल। प्रभु शू कहूँ दीनानाथ दया। हे प्रभु शू कहूँ दीनानाथ दयाळु। हे प्रभु शू कहूँ दीनानाथ दयाळु। हूँ तो दोष अनंतनु भाजन छो करुणा। हे प्रभु शू कहूँ दीनानाथ दया।